Justin Bieber, megastar, super talented singer. Currently, he's one of the top paid performers in the industry. Yet, despite all this massive success, he struggles with anxiety. Recently, I watched his docuseries and I was fascinated to see that he uses one specific nonverbal cue to manage his anxiety and stay calm, cool, and collected in high-pressure situations. In this video, I'm going to teach it to you. Cues are the social signals we send to each other. Many of them are invisible, but they don't have to be. Together, we will learn how to decode the cues hidden in body language, words, faces, and even voice tone. Let's captivate with your cues. Bieber and his team have developed fascinating strategies to help deal with his anxiety, especially when he's on stages, doing music videos in extremely high pressure situations. The great thing about this is we can use this cue ourselves. Cue number 1, havening. Bieber and his coach developed a specific cue that uses his physiologically to calm down in high pressure situations. Let's watch and see what they do.
Justin and I developed a routine that when he feels stressed, that he can use a technique called havening that I was trained in. And havening is a psychosensory technique that actually raises the feel-good chemicals in your brain on demand.
It's basically like a self-soothing thing. Everybody kind of has their own version of havening without even knowing it. It's like when you're a little kid and you suck your thumb to soothe yourself. When you're starting to feel really stressed out or just to keep yourself calm. It's almost like, I think when you're like a kid and your mom is like rubbing your back to sleep and it's like the best feeling in the world. It's kind of like that, except you're doing it for yourself.
What's fascinating is when I saw this cue, I realized that I've also been teaching a version of this self-touch or self-soothing because it's incredibly powerful for harnessing your own physiologically to calm yourself down chemical-free. The actual definition of havening is: havening uses self-touch to soothe and reduce anxiety associated with negative memories, according to Healthline. So what happens is, just like they mentioned in the docuseries, that when we self-touch, when we rub our arms or rub the back of our neck, that produces oxytocin, that produces serotonin. Simplified, those are two chemicals that keep us calm, that make us feel taken care of and heard. Just like when we were babies and our mothers or fathers held us and rubbed our back and said, "It's okay, I got you." It's like doing it for yourself. This is incredibly helpful, number 1, for yourself. So you can know that you can trigger your own serotonin, your own oxytocin with self-touch. What the docuseries didn't mention, of course, because this is it was not a self-help video, is that there's 2 different kinds of ways you can use havening. The first is when you're by yourself. So when you're by yourself and you're in a high pressure situation, like you're trying to create something or you have a creative block or you're getting ready for something big, you can use any kind of self-touch, just like Bieber did when he rubbed the back of his head. I'm not going to do it because it will mess up my hair, okay? So you can rub your hair, you can rub the back of your neck, you can give yourself a self-hug. Sometimes actually giving yourself a self-hug can make you feel held. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That was so nice. What was I talking about? So that was so crazy. So I just did havening. I just did havening for you. And I gave myself a self-hug. And then I was like, I feel great. I don't need to keep doing this video. What? That was crazy. So that just happened to me physiologically. So just try this right now. For me, like give yourself a little self-hug, rub your arms. You can even try rubbing your legs if you want, rub the back of your neck. Immediately, that should change your physiology. That should change your internal state. The longer you do it, you can see that Bieber will often do it repetitively. Now, by yourself is great because that can change your physiology and get you ready for a high pressure situation. It can unblock you creatively. It can make you feel calm, especially before bed. It's a great one before bed. But what I want to mention for us is you can also do havening in more public settings. And I would not recommend rubbing your head like that in a meeting. I would not recommend getting on stage and trying to like self-soothe yourself while you're on stage. If I were to give all my YouTube videos like this, it'd be a little weird, like a little bit odd if I were to get on stage and just constantly be rubbing my neck. So one is I want you to try to avoid self-touch when you're in public situations. That's because we are cued. Self-touch is a really interesting nonverbal cue because we know that people do it to self-soothe. We know that it can signal anxiety. So when you're in public, I highly recommend trying to not do self-touch. If you're going to do it in very small ways. So sometimes if I'm in a high pressure situation, to keep myself calm before I even enter onto stage or enter onto video, I will do some havening. I will do some self-touch to calm myself down, take some deep breaths. If I'm already on stage or I'm already in the high pressure situation, you're with a VIP, you're with a party, you're on a crazy date, you're in a negotiation or a pitch, I will do small forms of havening, just little tiny bursts of dopamine like this. So rubbing my hands together is actually an interesting cue because it can show excitement, but it's also a really subtle, nice way to self-soothe. I can even do it under the desk. So right now, if I were havening, you wouldn't even see me doing it, right? Same thing with under the desk. I could also maybe rub the sides of my legs. I can do that very softly so you wouldn't even know that I was doing it. So in public, save these techniques for when you need to calm down. Do not accidentally do them. Make sure your self-touch is purposeful. And if you know you're about to go into a high pressure situation, you can use havening to calm yourself down before you even enter the room. I want to add one special note here, which is there's actually a secret purpose to havening that I found really empowering with my students and my clients. So not only are we creating physiological response, which is really powerful, we're changing our chemicals, we're also taking control of our anxiety. So I have noticed that when I feel out of control or like I have no options, my anxiety gets even worse. So you're in a high pressure situation and you can feel your heart race, you begin to blush or sweat, and that makes you even more anxious, which makes you even more anxious. Knowing that you have specific steps that you can do to calm yourself down also reduces your anxiety. So the steps that I'm about to give you, starting with havening, knowing that you have them in your back pocket is incredibly empowering because you know, okay, if I walk into this meeting with my boss or I walk into this negotiation or pitch and I get nervous, I know what I have to do. I know what I can do to calm myself down. So we're adding control back into that feeling of anxiety, which can help conquer the anxiety. Cue number 2, block it out. Another thing I noticed watching Justin Bieber calm himself down is that when he's overwhelmed by the situation, he physically, literally blocks it out. I want you to watch his body language of what he does in this high pressure situation.
Really appreciate everyone's patience, guys. Sounds up.
It was a lot, you know, like a lot of people, a lot of dynamic, a lot of stuff. I was in my head a lot, you know, it was hard for me to really enjoy it like that, but I know that some days are gonna be just like that. I mean, in any workspace, you know, there's gonna be those off days where you just feel kind of like, I got a good crew, everyone's, you know, I should be good, but like today I just feel off. I think that day I was just a little off.
So what'd you notice in this little clip? He is physically blocking things out a number of different ways. So first he's sitting in the chair and he is bent over, so he's not making eye contact, he's not engaging, he's just trying to focus on himself and his breath and centering himself. He also often covers his eyes. You also notice that he went literally to the side of the room and covered his face, and then eventually he actually started to lie down. All of these are really helpful to know because one is he uses space in an interesting way. When you block out your external environment, it lowers the amount of triggers that are coming in so you can focus on centering yourself. So that's the first thing is if there's any way for you to limit the amount of stimulus coming in, that's going to help you keep yourself calm, cool, and collected. This is why oftentimes in high pressure events, especially networking events or big mingling events, which tend to trigger my anxiety, I typically skim the perimeter. I love finding little side rooms. I love hanging out in the kitchen. That is because I'm trying to reduce the amount of noise. I'm trying to reduce the amount of faces and people I'm seeing because I know that the more that I can focus on what's in front of me, focus on what I have to deliver, the better. So first is setting yourself up for success to try to make sure that you're blocking out any triggers that might stimulate any kind of anxiety. And the second is, can you literally take a physical break? So turning off to the side, taking a deep breath, facing away from the object that might make you nervous. You don't make me nervous. Don't worry. Just sometimes, right? So like if that's making me nervous, I'm taking a break and I'm turning off to the side. I'm enjoying the view. I love looking at the view. Secretly, whenever I'm in someone's home or I'm in an office, I will take a moment, take in the view, literally to give myself a break to block it out. I want you to consider here also how he did something called an eye blocking cue. So eye blocking is a really powerful cue. We do it when we don't like something or we don't want to see something. So have you ever embarrassed someone or given someone bad news? The very first thing they do is cover their eyes, right? They rub at their eyes. They cover their eyes. They cover their face. And that is because when we don't like something, we want to block it out. This can be good because it also limits the amount of stimulus, but it also has an interesting chemical effect. Is some research has looked at that when we touch our eyelids, when we hold our eyelids or cover our eyes, it can actually calm down the vagus nerve. So we feel like, oh, okay, we're calming ourselves down. So chemically, it can also have a reaction of, we're okay, we're good. And that's because when we're in a state of anxiety or fear, we're really wide-eyed, right? We're worried, we're looking around. And so taking a breath and closing it all out can be a really good way to keep it calm. You'll also notice in the video that he lies down. He physically changes his position. So he goes from seated in a chair to seating on the floor to lying down. Now, we can't all lie down in the middle of a party or a pitch or negotiation, but it isn't a bad thing that if you need to take a break from a high-pressure situation, go to the bathroom, lean against the wall, lean over on the counter, take a seat, stand, whatever the opposite was of what you felt in that high pressure situation can help shake up your chemistry, can shake up your physiology. So consider also using space wisely, changing the way that you're using your space. I want to make one more little special note here. I want you to notice how kind Justin Bieber was to himself, right? He said, sometimes you just have those off days. I had a good crew. It was feeling really good, but I just felt off. That acceptance is also a critical aspect of taking control in the sense that you're like, you know what? I'm just having one of those days. I find that the more I criticize myself for having anxiety, the worse the anxiety gets. So be kind to yourself. That's one of the best lessons I think that we could learn from Justin Bieber. Cue number 4, coordinate your cues. We are constantly sending cues to one another, thousands every day. And one of the secret ways that we can get more control of our anxiety, we can stay calm, cool, and collected, is to take control of our cues. In fact, the more we take control of our cues, the more we take control of our life. Bieber and his team have done this so well. They literally have coordinated their cues. Let's watch and see how he does this.
We coordinate, he and I, prompts that allow him to know what it is that he should be doing in the moment that he's feeling stressed. And then he has a coordinated signal back to me that lets me know what's wrong, how he feels, and what he needs. The key to his mental health now is to create a structured, organized, predictable environment around him.
This is brilliant. The most successful people know that they are constantly sending cues to each other, and they coordinate these with their environment and the people around them. So the first thing that was mentioned there is that he has set up signals with people around him. He set up signals with his partner, with his coach, with his team. I want you to do the same. I want you to talk to your friends, your wingman, your pitching partners, your partner, your boss. And I want you to talk about your cues, that when you're in a high pressure situation, if you're feeling like you're getting into a state of anxiety where you're not going to be your best self, you should have a coordinated cue with them to signal, take over. Give me a little break so I can go block it out. And you should do the same for them. You should know when they're in their most high pressure situation so you can help them stay cool and collected. So I want you to, one, is develop a set of signals where you know the cues that your people send when they're anxious, and they know the cues that you send when you're anxious. The second thing is, if you really want to be advanced, is I want you to set up cues that you can send to each other when you need things. For example, when I go to a party that I'm just not feeling, sometimes loud parties make me super awkward and anxious, I have a signal, a cue that I use with my husband. I can't share it with you here because what if I go to your house, we go to a party and it's not good? No, I'm just kidding. It's quite obvious. It's an eyebrow raise like this. This eyebrow raise means Netflix, pajamas, home. And he knows if I do this in a conversation or across the room, we gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go. No, I'm not gonna go for you. So we have that little cue that means like it's time to go. So I want you to think about what other cues do you wish you could send to the people in your life to be more purposeful to help you. Remember, the more cues you set up, the more in control you are. And that brings me to the second part of this cue, which is that they also set up a stable environment for him. Bieber knows that the more stable and predictable his environment is, the better. So I also want you to think about what cues are triggering you. What can you change in your environment to stabilize in your environment to set yourself up to be your best self? For example, this studio. So I used to do YouTube videos all over the place, from someone else's studio, from my car, from my cell phone. And I realized I wasn't being my best self because I felt like people were watching me. I didn't have the right tech. And so I said, okay, I want to dedicate a small room in our house where it's just me. It's super quiet. I have all my favorite gummies and goodies. I have my coffee. I have my water. I have my favorite inspirational books. I have all my things, and that helps me hopefully be my most charismatic self for you. So how can you set up cues in your environment to help you be your best self? And by the way, some examples of these, they can be fun and serious. For example, my AV team knows when I'm on stage and I need a break or I need help or I need to go dark on stage. I have a cue that I send them from stage that only they recognize. My husband has cues that he recognizes when I need rescuing. My video editor knows when I need a close crop. So think creatively of all the different cues that you can use in your life. The more creative you are, the more interesting you are, and the more control you have over your anxiety. Cue number 5, empowering touch. So this one I was blown away by. If you watch Justin Bieber in action in his real life, you will notice that he uses empowering, comforting touch all the time. Not just his self-touch, but touch with others. He is constantly touching the people he cares about, and that has a really interesting loop. So before I explain how it works, I want to show you just a couple of little clips of how much touch he's engaging with.
Support him. The last time around when he was doing the Purpose album, I was around for a lot of that, but definitely not as intimately.
How are you? Good to see you, bro. Yeah, good to see you too. Like your jacket. Thanks, man.
I love to see him do what he is so good at.
That's the name of the game.
There's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of things on artists and musicians specifically that I think people don't get to see because they're not around for the full process.
One more.
Smart, confident woman.
I find her to just be this unicorn, just this remarkable, remarkable person who's so caring and so giving and so loyal.
Hi. Hi. This is my wife.
What does Haley think of the album? Haley,
So do you notice here how obviously he's engaging with his partner, but there is a back and forth between the two of them where he is reaching out, she is reaching out. With the people he's working with in the studio, he purposely, so even the guy he walks by in the hallway, he gives an elbow bump to, right? Like every single person in the studio, he doesn't say, hey, good morning. Hey, let's get started. He goes over, he hugs, he back pats, he high fives, and you'll notice that constantly in his interactions. This is 2 really important things for keeping cool and calm. One is it creates oxytocin. So the moment that we physically touch other people, we get a burst of oxytocin. Simplified oxytocin makes us feel connected. It makes us feel like we belong. It makes us feel the warm and fuzzies. And the best way to conquer anxiety is to feel calm and cool and collected. So he is constantly triggering oxytocin by reaching out for touch. High fives, hugs, fist bumps, elbow bumps, handshakes, all those that he's constantly doing that, initiating that touch for himself. The second thing is it also signals to people around him that he wants to engage with them. And sometimes we get anxiety when we worry that we're not wanted or we're not accepted. And so by engaging in touch, even in the middle of an interaction, so a lot of people will do touch at the beginning of an interaction, right? They'll handshake or greet at the beginning. He is constantly giving high fives and hugs and cheering on fist bumps. And that's a way of constantly reassuring others, which then reassures him. We are all meant to be together. We're doing good work. We care about each other. And so I like that aspect here is that I think one of the ways he keeps himself calm, cool, and collected is he is constantly, physically, literally staying connected with people in his life. I want you to use all these tips that feel natural to you to keep your cool, calm, and collected self as your best self. You can use these personally, socially, romantically. And if you want more cues like this, I analyze all of them in my book Cues. I wanted to create a manual, a guidebook of all the cues there are. I truly believe that the more cues that we can take control of, the more in control we feel, and that's how we can be our best self. So in my book Cues, I talk about competence cues, warmth cues, charismatic cues, and the danger zone cues, the cues you should always avoid. So talk about these 4 boxes of cues so you can use them in your toolbox. So if you want to show up as competent and capable and powerful and impressive, you can grab a competence cue. If you want to show up as warm and trustworthy and friendly and likable, you can grab a warmth cue. If you want to be awesome, be a leader, be charismatic, be captivating, you can grab a charisma cue. And you also want to make sure you're not accidentally doing one of my danger zone cues. In the book, I also analyze all kinds of interesting celebs, from Britney Spears to Oprah to Margaret Thatcher to Richard Nixon to politicians, historians to celebrities. And so if you want me to do more videos like that from the book or just celebs that I see in action, I'm happy to. Give this video a like so I know that you like it. And let me know who else you might want me to analyze in the comments below. I hope you'll check out Cues. I hope you'll give this video a like. And I hope you'll stay calm, cool, and collected. Remember, we can learn from Justin Bieber.
Hey, I want to tell you one more thing. You are amazing. The question is, do you know how to share it? I'd love to help. I save my very best tips for my insider subscribers. Subscribe for free at scienceofpeople.com. I know your inbox is sacred, so I promise to send you only emails you will love.
Baby, 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 oh, like baby, baby. I won't. It's not karaoke. I also wonder if that's going to get me in trouble for copyright. Bieber, don't come after me. Just a few lines. That's all the lines I know, really. Baby, 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 oh, like baby, baby.